Welcome back to the 8th episode of Season 1 of the TURD Podcast, also known as the Trail Ultrarunning Race Directors Podcast. I'm your host, Shalini Bhajjan, and I'm excited to introduce today's guest. So let's get rolling. I'd like to welcome Keira Henninger, the race director for Keira Henninger Races, based in Southern California. Welcome to the podcast, Keira.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm so honored to be here, and I'm so honored you reached out to me.
I'm glad that you said yes. So
Yes.
as I like to start these podcasts with the big question, which is, who is Keira? Who are you as a person outside of race directing?
I think most importantly, I am a person that loves people, and I think that that's why my job is like works so well for me. I genuinely love human beings. I love people. I love interacting with people, and I love giving human beings an experience, something that's positive that they can remember for a lifetime, whatever that may be. And
Sure.
I feel in my heart that's sort of now like my legacy is
Yeah.
just doing that. Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your upbringing, where you've been. California is home. So what was that like, growing up there? And then also family, married, kids, husbands, boyfriend, all of
Oh,
that stuff.
so born and raised in SoCal, and I had a pretty tough childhood, which definitely brought me to running. It was my escape. It started in junior high, ran in high school, and so running was always in the background. And I also was in leadership all through school, like junior high, high school, really involved in that. And that also was an escape for me. And so that those were two things that really have come to play later in my life, running and leadership. And I'm married to my best friend, my soulmate, my husband, Jesse Haynes, and he's an ultra runner. We both
Sure.
huge passion for the outdoors. And I have a son. He is 29 years old, and he is my greatest, just my greatest joy. I'm
Sure.
very, very close with him. I had him myself very young. I was just a baby myself at 19. So, yeah.
So, if you don't mind me asking, what was that transition like? Of course, running, being and having a challenging childhood, and then, parenting and school, because at that age you're still trying to figure you're in college, where did that kind of lead you into where you are today?
So I think I'm always grateful for, my childhood because it really made me have a lot of grit, and it definitely was a direct link into ultra running. I started running with my baby jogger to lose baby weight. That's when I really found long distance running. My son would fall asleep in the jogger and
Sure.
sleep for a couple hours, and it became my outlet. I really found that when I ran for a long time, it eased all of that mental noise. It was my
Sure.
mental medicine. And I think so many people in ultra running kind of that is where how they end up there.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that it my whole childhood and everything that happened in my past was okay. I'm very thankful for it. It made me the
Sure.
strong woman I am today. Yeah.
How was school back then? Like balancing, being a parent and, of course, career, trying to focus, what was that like and what did you go to school for?
So I mean, I would say it was hard, of course. I entered college and immediately got pregnant. And for me, I think it was just I learned to balance a lot
Sure.
of things. I learned to bob and weave. I was in college full time, studying business leadership, and which again came from all those years of leadership classes. So I'm so glad. And organizational leadership, business leadership, but managing that with a little baby was definitely hard.
Sure.
I've always had the personality though of like full send, just which is
Yeah.
a wonderful gift I've been given. But it was hard. He has a wonderful dad, and we were kids ourselves. So
Sure.
I grew up with my son. I learned how to be a mama and be an adult. But my son was the first thing that happened to me where I really learned unconditional love. I'd never had
Sure.
that really as a child. And so when he came into my life, I was like, I just felt so much love. And for me, he gave me so much joy, even though
Sure.
I was so young. So I think all of those, to answer your question, all of those things that were so difficult, I was okay with it because I just love this little baby so much.
Yeah.
And so it worked out. It was balanced, but it was definitely tough. I have a lot of admiration for that young 19, 20, 21-year-old woman who was learning to be an adult woman
Sure.
and being a mama. Yeah.
Yeah. So, graduating, talk to me about jobs you've held before. As I was reading through some of the stuff, 2010 was when you took on race directing full time. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
So prior to that, what was your career transition like? And then we can talk a little bit about how you got into race directing.
Yeah. So for many years prior to that, I was an elite level athlete competing in racing in ultra marathons. And I think that for a career, I was always trying to find my way. It's crazy that
Sure.
where I ended up is exactly where I was supposed to be. I had so many jobs from running a real estate office. I mean, I was a waitress, like, and I always had a couple jobs going on.
Yeah,
In the early years, I always thought that I wanted to be a teacher. I wasn't really sure. And it wasn't until I started volunteering a lot at races,
yeah,
2005, 2006, and organizing aid station volunteers and really just throwing myself into that, that I found my purpose in that space. I was like, wow, I'm so great with bringing people together and organizing. So it really took me a minute. And I think that there's so much pressure on young people that they're supposed to have it figured out.
sure.
And I really believe with all my heart that all the right things end up in your lap when you're kind of maybe navigating all the wrong things.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and that's really how it happened for
Yep.
me. So
Yep.
I had a lot of different jobs, and I would say my longest kind of job was managing a real estate office, and I was good at that, managing
Sure.
people, doing all the things, but it never felt right to me. So yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
So before we jump into how you got into race directing and where that led and all that, let's talk a little bit about your running career. I briefly stalked you on Ultra Sign Up, so just there are a lot of races that we've kind of overlapped, same years. Angel East Crest. I was looking at Mogollon Monster. So, talk to me about that. What was that like? Like, how long were you racing competitively? Because obviously, you've got a resume that's large and, variations. So, talk to me about that. Running and
yeah. I started racing competitively right around 2008. I'd been running ultra marathons for a few years before that, but I started to realize that I was kind of good at it and I had a huge passion for it. And I was really exceptionally good at discipline. So I wasn't necessarily the most talented or the most fast, but I was, really disciplined in the training and eating healthy, and I loved it with all my heart. So I raced competitively from 2008 to about 2014, 15.
okay.
And then in a nutshell, after that, it was my career took over and that
Yeah,
became the forefront of, my goals. And it
sure.
was a little hard to balance it both. But I had a few good years there of racing competitively, and it gave back to me threefold. I think what it did most and what was so important about those years when I raced at that level was that later it gave me some respective clout in the sport. So when I went to go put on races and pursue that, I think people just had a little bit more respect for me than
Sure.
if I was, they knew that I understood ultra marathons
Yeah.
and the training and what it took. So it was just a wonderful blessing that
Yeah.
it came full circle in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of glad to hear you say that because I feel that way. Being a runner first, I mean, if that's your, identity first, and then going into race directing, you have a completely, I feel like you have a way better understanding of what the runners need and being able to
Yeah.
provide that experience from like personal, hey, I struggle with this, so this cannot happen.
Oh, I
Um,
love that you just said that because that was always genuinely at the core of my goal was like,
yeah,
how can I make it better? What can I do that's better from my bad experiences?
sure.
Yeah, and back in the day, not to, but the races were just different. They weren't
Sure.
organized like a business. And it was just sort of low key, sort of pasted together, and everybody just gathered and ran the race. And
Yeah.
and so I just wanted to create better experiences for people.
Yeah.
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 Um, so as in your running career, tell me a little bit about your most memorable race, and probably a race that you struggled the most.
Oh man, ultra running's so hard. I have too many struggle stories. I would say the hardest race, the biggest struggle of any race that I did was the Hurt 100,
Yeah. Oh
uh,
yeah.
Hawaii. That was so hard, and that was really life-changing for me. It was so out of my comfort zone, and I really wanted to finish,
Yeah.
and I did. So that would be something that was, for me, what an experience of just so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Um,
course
yeah.
grind.
And oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just relentless. And it's interesting though, because now with the 200 milers, I'm in awe of people finishing
Yeah.
those. And I think of like Hurt now, it's still so hard, but everything's so much harder in this sport. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah. And I would say my most memorable experience, I probably the few years that I raced the Angeles Crest 100 mile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so, again, and we'll dive into what else is out there in SoCal or in that area or region. I've run Angeles Crest and then not necessarily SoCal, but Miwok. In both those races, I had like the best experiences. Both are some of the oldest standing ultras. So, that community is definitely some of the better communities I've seen out there. Talk about SoCal and what's the scene like from when you started to where it is now. And I know it's a huge, but just, what's the community like and events that are happening or have, I guess, come up.
Yeah. So, SoCal is great. One thing you can say about SoCal is we have a lot of people.
Yeah,
And everybody talks about the traffic and all the things, but what that makes for is a perfect recipe for an incredibly large and tight community. I feel like we're 6 degrees of separation down here. So it's just great. There's just so many beautiful, amazing, wonderful people. And I mean, they're my trail family.
yeah,
And I mean, we're never short on volunteers. I could cry how much I love everyone.
yeah,
But there's so many people down here in SoCal, and it just and obviously running and the sport is growing and booming right now, is having the biggest moment it's ever had. But it's just incredible. There's so many beautiful, wonderful, amazing people, and it's a very large community. So that's the number one thing that I would say. The vibe is tons of people, lots of love, very large, and it's just never ending.
yeah,
I mean, my Facebook volunteer group, and we don't even have to really use it anymore, but I think we have like 1,000 active members, and it's
sure.
just the K Races volunteer group.
Yeah,
And we do offer at my races, like if you volunteer for the day, you can trade it for a free race entry to any of our races.
yeah.
And because we love our runners so much. And so it's just this great evolving community, but love and super large.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, I mean the race caps are larger, and like you said, the
Yeah.
support system is definitely some of the best I've seen out there just from racing around.
Yeah.
Um, so with SoCal, I know forest fires. I remember the year I ran Angeles Crest. The air quality was red getting into Altadena, and that was brutal. The last 20 miles just were
Yeah.
hacking stuff. Does that impact your events, or has that ever impacted a race that you put out in a way? And I know currently a lot of race directors are dealing with that at your end.
Yeah. So, it's so interesting. I've always been affected by fires, and I'm so glad that you asked this question. You are such an amazing person for asking this question because a lot of people don't know this. Like, I can go back to 2013. I was on a plane going to Miwok, and I found out that my Leona Divide course had burned down.
Yeah,
And just a few weeks before that, I'd found out that Ray Miller had burned. And that's just 2013.
Yeah.
almost every year I could talk about a fire and how we've been impacted and how we've had to create a new race course, reroute. And so this isn't new. People are
Yeah.
like, oh, it's getting worse. And I feel like at KH races, we're like, hold our beer.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Like this has always
Yes.
been.
Every year. Yeah.
Oh yeah, in the history of my business, and we just lost a race that would have been in its fifth year in October. It was called the Samo Trail Runs, and it started and finished at Will Rogers State Park in the Palisades, and the entire park is just, I mean, it's gone.
Yeah.
And the trails, and it's, and that was we had a 50-mile, 50K, 30K. So, and it's people are like, well, what do you do? And there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
The event
There's
is
nothing.
gone, and yeah.
Yes.
So
It's
fires are a thing.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think the general population that is not involved with race directing, this is just my experience, does not understand that losing those trails, how much it impacts you financially, and also it's disheartening because you've put years worth of work into developing a race and getting it, growing it.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. I love you, and I love that you said that. And it's a tough thing because the race directing business and trail races, it didn't used to be people put them on and they would be small and the money went to some organization, and by
sure,
all means we make massive donations to, the Santa Monica Trails Council and wonderful organizations, but it's a business. I have a staff. Nobody works for free, and I
sure,
work really, really, really hard. I mean, there's times where I'll have 15, 16, 18-hour days.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And so it's a tough thing though. Yeah,
yeah,
it's tough because it's a total financial loss. And
yeah.
everything you said, building the website and all the promotion, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, and you're not working a 9 to 5, you're literally even on a weekends, whether it's a race weekend or not, you're still, there's an email. I mean, I don't know how you manage it, but I see an email on Saturday and it's like anxiety, and I have to really, really control myself not to respond because I'm like, it's a weekend, I'm not working. So
Yeah.
that's a hard balance between that, just racing and whatnot. Um,
Yes. Yes.
so, tell me about your company, when it was founded, and talk to me about what was like, what and how that was formulated. What led you into that?
So I'll try to be brief. So it started with me with Leona Divide. I'd
Sure,
volunteered there at 2008. In 2009, I took over as the entire volunteer coordinator. And after the race, Glenda Kimmerly, who created the race, just said, would you like to take over this race? I want to give it to you.
sure.
And she was at the time 65. So
Yeah,
she was the original kind of people in the sport. And I was like shook. I mean, I wasn't expecting it. And so I immediately said yes.
yeah,
And really, it was from that after that first year at Leona Divide, which was 2010, which was my first year by myself, I thought, I want to do this for a living and I want to put on. I remember writing this down. And I think back, I was such a young like woman, and I wrote down, I want to put on the most organized and well sought out trail races in the sport.
sure.
I don't know why that statement came to mind to me.
Yeah,
And then I wrote it down like 15 more times. And I still have that journal page of me
sure.
writing it down.
Yeah,
And that was sort of became my mission.
yeah,
And so it was a slow process. All of the other races I have, I built from the ground up. One of my biggest babies I'm proud of is Griffith Park. There were never trail races in Griffith Park. And that's like where the Hollywood sign is and the
sure.
observatory. And I remember I had to go before the LA City Council.
Yeah,
And they were like, you want to do what? Like a foot race, like running on those trails? And so it was just sort of stuff like that. Doors were
yeah,
closed. And for me, I always had this concept, and I don't know where I got this from, but that just because someone tells you no doesn't mean that that's the final no.
absolutely.
They don't have the final say.
Right.
I would always think that. And I would always say, okay, there's another way. There's a workaround.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And so that was a huge driving force in my business those beginning years too,
sure.
because I got so many no's. And all my races that are in the Malibu sector and in the backcountry, there were never trail races back there. Sean
Yeah.
O'Brien, Ray Miller, all of them. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was it. Was like
Yeah.
find a way, do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like persistence is so important because we're so used to hearing no, especially when it comes to permits, right?
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
okay, and it's sometimes it's like oh shit, and I've had similar experience where I've actually had to appeal permits for a race that I wanted to use the trails to like Jeff Coe, after three
Yeah.
petitions and. So that's always challenging, but it feels good when you're actually able to get a yes and
Yeah.
accomplish that.
Yeah.
So Sean O'Brien, talk to me like how many years you've been race directing, and
Okay.
actually, you know what? Let's go back to Leona Divide. How many years you've been race directing, and because it's one of the oldest standing ultras, how many years prior? So like just so people have a quick idea of how old this event is and still is continuing.
Okay, so Leona Divide was one of the first trail races in the sport, and it was a 50 miler, and it really was birthed from Glenda Kimmerly and her husband Bob Kimmerly and their group of friends used to do this 50-mile route as a training run for Western states.
Yeah,
So this is, years ago, like in the 80s. And then Bob Kimmerly got cancer and passed away. And so in memory of him, they decided to put on the Leona Divide race. And it was that 50-mile training run that they would do. And it's called Leona Divide because part of it you run on the Leona Divide truck trail. So really simple. So that's sort of where that race was birthed from. And it was always a staple, popular grassroots 50-mile race. I think the very first year was 1990. I could be off a year or two, but I believe that was the first year that they did it. I think there was like 40 people, something
yeah,
like that. Um, and so then I took it over in 2010. So in 2026 will be my 16th year of being the race director
race
for
director, of course.
race. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so Leona, before we get into all the other races that you have, give me a quick roundup of that, and then we'll talk about Sean O'Brien and some of the more recognized events that you host. Um, what are the trails like? Again, I've had uh, Angeles Crest and Miwok, two very, very different trails. The terrain is just uh, different from each other. So, for somebody who's never run a race out in SoCal, what are we, I mean, outside of your climbing, what else, what is it that makes your trails um cool?
Well, for Leona Divide's pretty special because it's ran almost entirely on the Pacific Crest Trail. And so
Okay.
that's super special about that race. There's not very many races that run on that trail, and also especially now, races can't be permitted, any new races.
Yeah, yeah,
So, yeah, and it's a ton of single track. It's our largest race in the lineup. And it does go up to almost 6,000 feet. And it's kind of like there's sections where there's some pine trees, and it's a really cool course. So,
yeah.
that is definitely what's special about Leona Divide. It is always warmer, though. We, in April, it's sunny and like 75, 80. And then, once you're in the sun, it can feel like 85. So Leona's known for that too, which is very different than some of our coastal races, which would be Sean O'Brien and Ray Miller and Malibu Canyon. They're more on the ocean side. So
Sure.
Leona's very far from the ocean.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are the trails technical? I've been on some segments of the PCT, that are buttery, just you can say, as you said, single track, but then you do end up in segments that are very, very technical.
Yeah, I would say Leona is very buttery. Lots of, yeah. And
Fast
the
time.
Yes, and there's a small amount of truck trails also, especially on the 100-mile and 100K course.
Sure.
The 50-mile and 50K is almost entirely on the PCT, but the truck trails are smooth, runnable. But most of the PCT is also very, very non-technical. There's
Yeah.
some really narrow parts, so that is something, for sure, but it's butter smooth. A
Yeah.
SoCal
Yeah.
trails, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, people from the East Coast, I think they come out, they're like, what is this?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, So, let's talk a little bit about the permits with Leona Divide and the PCT. I know it's the same with the Appalachian Trail. There are no races held, like whatever segments. So with permits standing for however many years, decades, have you had any issues continuing to, get those permits? Any
I've been
challenges?
Yeah, I've been very, very blessed. So, believe it or not, for most of the time that I've been directing the Leona Divide, I've worked with one ranger, and I'm going to give her a shout out here, Angie Stever. I love
Yeah.
her so much. And she's actually one of the permitting rangers for the Angeles Crest and all that they've been through, and they were still able to
Oh
have it
yeah.
this year. So,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
fires. She's just beautiful and wonderful. And we were able to get Leona Divide grandfathered in.
Okay.
So someone can't come along and take it from us.
Yeah.
With,
And that's a good
someone
thing.
new. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I have incredible support. I mean, in the Malibu sector, which is a lot of my races, the people that work for the parks are some of my closest friends. We're like family.
Sure.
So I'm blessed. They're so supportive of special events. So if I come out saying anything, I have to say that is one of the best things about SoCal. And now they don't permit any new races or a lot of races, but really supportive of the events and permitting. So I've been very lucky. Now, on the flip side of that, with the fires, working
Yeah.
around that, with like Leona, we had to move Leona for like 7 years all the way to a totally new course. And then now we're back on the old original course because of fires. And
Sure.
it's crazy. So
Yeah.
they're always trying to work with us, but if there is a fire and it burns, the Forest Service will close the trails and they'll stay closed for, a bit. So it's tough. Yeah.
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 With you said most of your other races are in the Malibu area. So tell me what was the first after procuring Leona Divide? Um, I'm assuming that's when you launched Keira Henninger Races and your company was born. Um, how soon after? And then what was the first race that you came up with, designed the course, and what is that race, and what's so special about that race?
So that would be Griffith Park. So the next race that came in the lineup was Griffith Park. And I actually had Griffith Park in the works
Okay.
in the fall of 2010. So it was like after my first Leona, and I was working with the city council, and I have a dear friend named Sean O'Brien. And and him and his husband Alan live in like close to Griffith Park. And if the he would I would meet him there early in the mornings during the week sometimes, and we would run and stuff. And he said, "You should put on a trail race here."
Yeah.
And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, nobody's ever done that. So he was a big proponent in that. So Griffith Park was the next one in the lineup. And 100%, like we ran the route. I designed it, had the old map versions when I brought it into the city council. Um, and that's kind of where that came from. So that was the next one. And then after that was Ray Miller. So Ray Miller came right after Griffith Park. And Ray Miller was birthed from myself and a bunch of close friends. We used to do a 50-mile training run for Angeles Crest,
Yeah.
and that is now currently the Ray Miller 50-mile course.
Okay.
Everybody's like, you should make this a race. And there had never been a race in the backcountry of like Point Mugu State Park. And
Sure.
where I took it into like National Park Service land, out of state park, and it was all kinds of different entities. And so, yeah, that's where Ray Miller was birthed from. And then
Okay.
it just going.
So what are the distances of the two races? Ray Miller, you said 50-mile, correct? Is it a loop?
Yeah, Ray Miller has a 50 mile, a 50K, and a 35K.
Okay.
And it basically, Ray Miller 50 mile is part of it's an out and back, but most of it's like a loop. The 50K is a loop. Like it kind of covers all of the trails in the park. Same
Okay.
with the 35K. So it's not like repeated small loops.
Sure.
It's mostly like all different trails. Like for
Okay.
the Ray Miller 50 mile, 42 miles of it is not repeated. Yeah, yeah. And
And what about Griffith?
Griffith Park is an out and back. We have a 50K, we have a 30K, we have a marathon, a 10K and a half.
Okay.
Yep.
So I have to ask, like all these names sound like people names. Maybe
So
I'm just overthinking this, Sean O'Brien. I mean, like, what's the
yeah.
drive?
Okay, so Sean O'Brien has a good story.
Right.
Griffith Park is Griffith Park. Ray
Okay.
Miller, he was the group camp host in charge of the Ray Miller Trailhead, like
Okay.
back in the 70s. And he just lived there. And so the race starts and finishes on the Ray Miller Trail.
Okay.
So, yeah. So what I try to do is I try to name the race after like where it's at. I have O'Neill Park Trail Races in O'Neill Park, Casper's Trail Races in Casper's Wilderness Park. So
Yeah.
Griffith Park, Griffith Park. Leona Divide, couldn't change that name.
Yeah.
Uh, Ray Miller was the group camp host. So Sean O'Brien, I named. So Ray Miller in 2013 had a horrific fire. And so we were canceled the year after because the trails were burned.
Sure.
And so I was running with my friend Sean O'Brien on the Sean O'Brien course.
Yeah.
It did not exist.
Yeah.
And we were running the 50-mile course
Yeah.
as a training run for AC 100. And he was like, you could probably just have, since Ray Miller burned, why don't you put on a race over here
Yeah.
and have it here? And for people to understand driving distance, the courses don't intersect as far as like the courses, aren't on the same trails, but they're only like maybe a half an hour from each other.
Yeah.
So they're close to each other. So I was like, oh, that's a really good idea. And so when I got the approval to have the Sean O'Brien race, kind of jokingly, I named the race after Sean O'Brien, and then it
Yeah.
stuck.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And Sean O'Brien is a Western qualifier. Is that correct?
yes. And so is Leona Divide. The
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
100K and 100 mile at Leona are Western States qualifiers, and Sean O'Brien is a Western States qualifier. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how many races are you race directing at the present moment? And just kind of quickly name them for me.
Okay, I'll start with the first one of the year and we'll just go through it. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
Sean O'Brien in January. In March, we have Griffith Park. In April, we have Leona Divide. In May, we have O'Neill Park Trail Races. In June, we have Malibu Canyon Trail Races. And then we take a break until October. In
Okay.
October, we have Casper's Trail Races. In November, we have our Griffith Park Fall Edition.
Yeah.
In December, we have Ray Miller and Paramount Ranch Trail Runs.
Okay.
And then we used to have in October also the Samo Trail Runs that burned in Will Rogers and the Palisades. And then we have a few new races that we're building.
Okay.
Yep. And then my assistant Amanda she took over 2 races of mine or 3 races of mine that I gifted to her.
Yeah.
I love her so much. So she puts on a couple little races in Orange County, and the Elder Creek runs. So there
And
was, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was just gonna say, so those races are not held under the Keira Henninger Races umbrella. Those are
Those are her own. Yeah, they
gotcha.
were mine and I handed them off to her.
Yeah, that's cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I volunteered.
Um, so if I'm adding this correctly, what, 9 races currently? 9 to 10 events a year?
Yeah, 10. Yep, yep. And we
Yeah,
have 2 more that we're building that are in the works that I can't say anything else about.
sure.
So,
That's always exciting, isn't it? Laying
yes.
out courses and yeah. With the races, and I guess what I would like to know is with that many events, just knowing this from my end, we have to have like there has to be a giving back. Um and it's not just giving back to the sport, but also to our trail systems, whether that's volunteering. So talk to me about what sort of initiatives do you guys have in place and trail work? Like what sort of trail maintenance is that primarily just done by the trail associations or you just dive into outside of volunteering at aid stations, what else is involved?
Yeah, so that's probably one of my biggest passion projects. So we do KH Races Trail Work Days. And I think that the biggest thing is knowledge is power and trying to get the information out there to people that we are the ones that have to keep the trails cleared. We're the ones that have to do trail work on them, especially in California and with budget cuts and like the state parks. And they just don't have the manpower or the dollars to do it. So it's up to us.
Yeah.
And really it's that education. So we just put out we have two big trail work days coming up in the fall, and it was our first one is in October, and I was so excited. Immediately we have like 40 people. And there's only so many people we can have on a trail work day. But I just love that we're spreading that knowledge of like, hey, it's up to us, you guys.
Yeah.
So I usually host like 4 or 5 trail work days a year, and really encourage people to, donate to these different organizations and the donation is for trail tools, and it's so
Sure.
important. So
Yeah. Oh,
it's
yeah.
really, to me, that's just and with this boom of running and the run groups and is education and
It
educating
is. It is.
all of these people, just that. So
Yeah.
it's a big passion of mine. Yeah. Yeah. I feel
Yeah.
so that I have the platform.
Right, right. And it's always I always feel like that's the part or that's the component that runners just completely black out on,
Yeah.
is trail work, trail
Yeah.
maintenance. And um yeah, and that's the shitty part of the job, if you will, but you got to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, are there any other, I guess, community projects, nonprofits that you guys are involved with, where it's like, hey, this component of the raised finance, here's where we go, this is where we're developing it. What's that
Um,
seem like?
so most of my time and donate and everything that I give to is through like the Santa Monica Trails Council and different
Okay,
Pacific Crest Trail Association, and so trail work. And that's for me, I've always owned and loved that we put on really great, beautiful trail races. And when you come to a trail race, you go to sign up. Nobody cares who you are, what you look like, anything. You can just sign up. When
sure,
you come to check in, when you come to park, they'll tell you where to park just the same. They love you just the same. When you go to check in, everybody's going to check you in the same. When you come to an aid station, they're going to take your bottle just the same, love you just the same. They're going to fill it up no matter what. And I truly believe that trail running and the sport and our races don't discriminate. We love, and
yeah,
we are such an incredible community. And I think that it's really important for me. That has become a huge thing for me, is that to make it known, because I only see love and acceptance. And no matter what, at my races, we love everyone. And you're just part of our community.
sure,
That's something I'm so proud of. And so we stick to, my company as a whole, we stick to supporting keeping the trails cleared, keeping the parks, whatever they need. I made a donation to state parks. The park staff needed a new fridge in their
yeah,
office, and we bought it. I'm like, that, how do you guys not have a fridge for your drinks? So I know what we're good at, and it's part of what I want to stick to and stay in that arena. And I'm really proud of that. And so that's my platform. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned Santa Monica Parks and Rec, or Trail Systems.
The Trails Council. Yeah.
Trail Council, is that primarily your permitting authority outside of Leona where you're using PCT, or are
Um,
you dealing with multiple different areas, conservation and whatnot?
so the Trails Council is a nonprofit totally separate from any of the permitting. So I don't get a single permit from them. We're just an
Okay.
organization that organized trail work days in
Supporting,
the
yeah.
entire Santa Monica Mountains. So I deal with state parks. Griffith Park is the city of Los Angeles, and National Parks owns a lot of the land in Malibu. So I also have to get permits from them. Leona Divide is U.S. Forest Service.
Yeah,
And my handful of races in Orange County are Orange County Parks. So that's like a county. So I kind of have all different,
sure.
yeah, and it's so interesting how different all the
Oh yeah,
permitting
yeah,
process. Yeah,
yeah,
it's so interesting to me. Yeah,
yeah.
and cool. Yeah,
Yeah, it is. And every like their rules are different, their
yeah,
requirements which
yeah,
is always sometimes I feel like picking hair, you're like, oh crap, I gotta eh, you
totally.
know, you get
Yeah.
used to one thing and then something else happens. And so
Yeah.
I guess as we're talking about permits, which one of your races has the most permits that you require? Like, is 3 permits, 4 permits? Like, what's that process like? And are your permits typically a year out? Or I know with Forest Service, you can some places can get 5-year permits, but what's it
Yes.
like with you?
So Leona, I have a 5-year permit,
Okay,
but we still have to send in everything every year. But
sure.
and then with the state parks, which would be so for Sean O'Brien and Ray Miller and Malibu Canyon, and I don't know if I mentioned Malibu Canyon is in June, and we have 100K, 50 mile, 50K, 30K, and half.
Okay.
So those are all of three of those races are California State Park and national parks.
Yeah.
So I have to get two separate permits. And all my other races are just one permit. So luckily, I don't have any races that I have to get more than two
Two
permits, which is
permits at a
cool.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And it's the same people like I've been working with for years. And with which is great, at least on the state park level that I've learned. They don't leave those jobs till they
No.
retire. So it's cool. And it's the
Yeah.
same with the OC parks. Like they kind of stay there
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
which is a blessing. So yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah, and once you kind of build that relationship, it's kind of a no-brainer too. I'm sure you
yeah.
experience that. You just send in the paperwork, they don't even, it's just like sign off and yeah,
Yeah.
I mean you get to go
Yeah.
for the year. So
Yeah, the
um
city of Los Angeles is the only one that every few years that special events person, but they're really good about transferring over the information. And
yeah.
we've been in Griffith Park so long, they're so supportive. So, but that would be the only one where that's the city of Los Angeles, where I've seen the position change a lot.
Okay. So where are you located physically? Like where's home? What town or in I guess in relation to where the races are being held.
So all of my LA races, I do not live near.
Okay.
So I'm in South Orange County. So I'm in between LA and San Diego.
Okay.
And we live in a little area, a neighborhood called Coto de Caza. And we're surrounded by lots of trails and wilderness, and it's really lovely. I feel very, very blessed.
Sure.
Yeah, it's nice and hot today though. It's like 100 degrees outside, 95. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So commute wise, like when you're heading into LA for your events, what's that? An hour plus? Because I know again, going back to what you started with, traffic's horrendous. So
Yes, traffic is definitely. So most of my events we go up a couple days before because I still mark all my own race courses myself. I just can't, I have to
yeah.
just, yeah, I'm like, so my heart is so in my events. And so I'm usually up there a couple days before. Griffith Park is the only one that we go up the day before and we still come home that day. And I'll sit in traffic for 2 hours. Griffith Park without traffic is only like an hour 10 from my house.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
Everything else is kind of like 2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Don't
you're
is really
basically,
hard.
yeah, you're stationed there for
Yeah.
weeks out before the event's happening, which again is challenging in itself.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so with all of that, what's your average race cap? How many runners are you taking in just so people who have never, I guess, looked at some of these events can get an idea?
So most of my races are around 400.
Okay.
The Orange County races are 200. So those are in smaller little cute little Orange County parks. But the rest of them 400. And then with the exception of Leona Divide, that's 600. So that's
Yeah.
our biggest one. And there's never any more runners than that. We're capped at that. And I always like to say we're the largest chain of not chain of but largest group of like grassroots
Yeah.
races.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We're not at the level of thousands of runners, and nor would I don't know if I'd ever want to be. I don't judge the races that are at that level,
Sure.
but for me, I'm such a perfectionist, and I know that it's not if things are going to go wrong, it's when.
When things go wrong. Yeah.
Yes, and I can't, and for Leona, the planning that goes into it and everything we like to do, and that's 600 runners.
Yeah.
Can't imagine having 1,000 runners. It's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm comfortable at those numbers and doing a really good job. That's my
Sure.
goal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
outside of Leona, that has 100-mile distance option, what other races come close? And then what's the shortest distance race um, that you
So
offer?
I'll start with the shortest distance race. We have a ton of races that offer a 10K along with other distances. So
Right.
yeah, most of my races offer a 10K. in Orange County, and then Griffith Park, and then Paramount Ranch. And Paramount Ranch is a 6.5 mile loop course, and we have every distance up to 50K.
Okay.
And it's single track. It's so cute, and that's up in Calabasas. So yeah, we have lots of 10Ks, and then Leona is my longest one, 100 mile, and then I have a few 100Ks
Okay.
at Sean O'Brien, at Malibu Canyon, and then let's see, Sean O'Brien, Leona Divide, Malibu Canyon, all have 100Ks. Yeah.
Okay. Um, I'll dial back a little bit. Talk to me about your husband. You said he is also an ultra runner. I'm very curious what that is, having two ultra runners in the same household. And is he involved with some of the race prep or racing, or is it more, here's where we draw a line, I'm doing my thing and you know.
Oh. So my husband is my rock. He's my biggest supporter, and I don't know if I would be with him if he didn't support me in what I do because it's such a physically demanding
It
job.
is. Yeah,
And he just helps me with anything and everything. Now he loves to participate in my races, but he'll jump in and run like the 50K or the 50 mile, and then he's with me. He's the last person to leave.
yeah,
And he'll change clothes and he's right by my side. And he's in construction and
sure,
a very stressful, um, upper management on huge construction job sites. So he has a very demanding job. But he's able to get days off and, be at all my events. So yes. So to answer your question, he totally loves to run at the races, and then he'll hop in and,
sure.
help till he's the last one to leave. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
He's
awesome.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I guess as you know, we're kind of winding down into this. I do have, I guess, briefly t touch on the changes that you have seen, not just as a runner yourself, but also race directing for, about 15 years now. Just briefly touch on that for me.
Okay. I think the biggest things that we've seen, and I always say, if you can't change with something, then it's not going to work. So
Yeah,
we've just gone with the flow, and I will definitely say that the sport has changed so much, and that runners really need to be catered to more, and
yeah,
there's a lot
yeah.
more hand holding, and we're okay with that. I always look at them as all my little children.
Right.
And and it's okay.
Yeah,
But it's to me, being in the sport so long, that would be it's leaps and bounds how different it is. It's unbelievable to me.
yeah,
And we overmark and over hold hands and
yeah,
all the
yeah,
things.
yeah.
Lots of love from us, but it's pretty wild. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned, that there's a lot of hand holding needed with because I totally again not to but it's the trend,
yeah.
I mean it's just I feel like when and I'm sure you go way back a bit, even before I started racing, I mean you just, you showed up and you ran, you know and nobody gave a shit, but now it's
That's it.
yeah,
No,
yeah, it's
that's it right there. Yeah. And you
yeah,
just, yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's very, very different than that. But
yeah,
we just went with it. And I really saw the change, coming back from COVID. And it's funny because the younger generation is actually my favorite generation. Everybody just, knocks on them and all these things, but they want so badly to be loved and accepted, and they want to be a part of the amount of volunteers we get, and they're so excited to be a part of it, and they want that community. I mean, that's why there's this birth of the run clubs.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They want to have all the things, and we've just embraced it.
Sure.
And it's been incredible. So I always only choose to see the positive, and that's sort of been my take on it. And there's definitely moments I think I, want to rip my hair out, and I'm like, wait, no, we don't have organic avocados at
Right.
the stations. Like this. But
Yes.
but then I just remind myself, that it's just how the sport is now, and it's okay. Yeah. A
Yeah. Yeah.
lot of love. I mean, they really show up, and they show up with like 30 of their friends
Yeah.
and do an eighth, and they're so excited. Yeah,
Sure.
so I'm here for it. I love it. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's been fun chatting with you, but before I call it a wrap, I have one quick question for you.
Okay.
After 15 years of race directing, do you sit down and ask yourself, or stand up and ask yourself, what's next?
Oh, I
Have you
love that.
had those moments, or is it just like, this is my ride or die, you know?
I definitely have. This is definitely not my ride or die. I have a beautiful, amazing assistant, named Amanda, and I have an exit plan, and she
Yeah,
will be at the forefront. So, I'm so excited to have had such a blessed career and met some of the most beautiful human beings I've ever met. Like I said, in a space where nobody cares what you believe or what you look like or anything. We just love. And some of my best friends have come from this sport,
yeah,
hands down. And from
yeah.
volunteers, like they become some of my, so I just love it. But this is not my ride or die. It's a very physical job,
It
15.
is.
Yeah, I see myself maybe 3 to 4 more years. And my husband is, he's a few years older than me, and he has a good retirement plan. And I would like to, be in the background a little, but I'm 49, so
Yeah, yeah, same. Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Oh, you're so beautiful. I would never, wow, I thought you were a lot younger than that.
no, I'm 49, turning 50 in December.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, it's just so physical. And I think a
It
lot of
is,
people
it is. It
don't
is,
realize that.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is definitely demanding. And yeah, I mean, like you, I feel like, especially since the last couple of years, it's always kind of asking yourself, how long can I keep doing this?
Yes.
Especially when you said, marking the courses, because I'm similarly very anal retentive. I tend to mark
Oh,
the courses by myself. I've got a couple of volunteers and friends that
yes.
help, but it's such a, I don't want people getting lost or getting off course, and
Right?
proactively, coming up with solutions if the course does get vandalized or something uh,
Yeah.
horrible
Yeah.
goes that. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. It was great chatting with you, getting to know, a little bit about, and I have not run any of your races, but, hopefully the future does allow for me to travel and come visit and check out some of the events that you have. So if people are trying to find, outside of going on Ultra Sign Up, trying to pull up a particular race, if they're trying to go on a website, where do they find all the events that you host? Just give me your website.
Yeah, it's khraces.com. And if you go to our Instagram KH Races, it's also super super easy. I have a link tree link, and it's got them all just in order, like real quick with, registration links. And so KH Races. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you so much, Kira. Appreciate it.
Thank
And
you.
all right, this is a wrap. Thanks for listening to today's episode. And if you're looking for more information on the TURD podcast, visit our website at terraintrailrunners.com. That's Terrain Trail Runners with an S, or give us a follow on social media channels. Until next time, don't forget to say thank you to your favorite race directors. We appreciate it, and it makes our jobs worth doing.